Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and your co-host this week is the OG, other co-host, PALPAKELLI. Welcome back, PALPAKELLI.
Hello, it's good to be back.
If this is your very first episode of the podcast, the way we format the show is we go through a bunch of news, and then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what PALPAKELLI and I have been up to since you last heard us. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 522. What is already the biggest movie of 2022, it's going to be hard to top that with the rest of the releases this year. Top Gun Maverick has surpassed Avengers Infinity War at the domestic box office, according to The Hollywood Reporter.
How many Marvel nerds are so mad right now?
It's not even that good. It is.
It's just because it's a sequel and there's nostalgia there.
I have not seen Infinity War. Bobby's told me the entire plot of it, and from what I can hear and understand, Top Gun Maverick seems to be a hell of a better movie than, and based on the record too, because I gave up on the MCU after Doctor Strange, and that's when I was like, this is enough. Enough is enough. And that's when I knew the pattern that it was going in, and from what everything I've seen online, it's only gotten worse. So good on Top Gun Maverick, and I hope it just continues to climb. I know it's about to end its theatrical run, but it's still got a couple of weeks left.
Didn't they also have to re-release Infinity War like 1 or 2 times to hit that number?
So they should re-release Top Gun Maverick a couple months down the line.
Perfect.
See what happens.
And then we can just make even more people angry.
I know people were asking Paramount, when is Top Gun Maverick coming out into physical release? When are we going to get it streaming? And they were like, we're going to delay the release for a little bit and milk out some of that more box office, because it was working. People were getting word of mouth that it was awesome and coming out to the theaters for it. They did announce officially that it is coming out on streaming by next Tuesday, which is going to be August the 23rd. So the Tuesday this releases, that's when you'll be able to stream it or at least buy it digitally. I think that's when it's also on Paramount Plus. So if you're down for a movie night, I would love to watch Top Gun Maverick with you.
I would love to. Am I going to cry?
I teared up for a father-son moment type of thing in the movie. And if you can relate to that or attach yourself to that, you might. But I did not specifically cry, but I did tear up. And I don't know if now, haven't seen the whole picture, maybe it'll hit me harder or maybe softer. I don't know. But it's possible. You might cry.
Yeah, let's do it.
Leo's favorite movie of the year, though, Jurassic World Dominion, has made its way home with a version that we did not get to see on the big screen.
The Jurassic World Dominion Extended Edition that is featured in the digital and physical releases of the film is 14 minutes longer than the one shown in theaters, and it represents the original completed cut that director Colin Trevorrow presented to Universal.
In an interview with comicbook.com, Trevorrow said, quote, "It's something that, as a concept, I know can feel indulgent. We had finished the film, and we were in a scenario where we were asked to take out a good chunk of the movie, ultimately 14 minutes of the movie. So to have to go and try to figure out which of your darlings to kill, which can go, it really wasn't that I went back and did a director's cut. It's just that we have been honestly given a gift of being able to share the original film," end quote.
So Leo received this movie last night and naturally busted open the room at 6:30. He comes in every morning to cuddle me, right? So I was like, it's cuddle time. And he's like, Mom, put on Jurassic World. So I have seen about half of the extended cut at this point. He was so funny because every scene he'd be like, I haven't seen this. I've seen this. I've seen this one. I'm like, you've seen most of it, Leo. But the scenes that I've seen so far are pretty cool. And I do think they add more to the film. I will say that the very first scene, I don't know if I'm really I feel like they talked about this previously, but it does take place in the past. And the way they do it is kind of silly because they were rivals then and they're going to be rivals now. And I was like, that's a little silly, but it was still cool to see the dinos in their natural environment and just, being dinosaurs.
It was like a nature documentary a little bit when you see the Giganotosaurus and the T-Rex battle it out. But I guess that was the idea of they were apex predators in their time, and now T-Rex is like, this motherfucker again.
But they almost make it seem like they were reincarnated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they weren't, but okay.
They do, right. The thing is, the idea tracks a little bit because it's like, oh, we clone them. So that the idea, I guess, is what he's trying to say is that exact T-Rex is, I guess, the one that they clone in the future, and that Giganotosaurus might be the one.
We have clones in the movie already, and they don't have the memories from their people they were cloned
right.
from.
And then the T-Rex, although they explained it later, but that T-Rex does have the feathers on it in the prehistoric portion, and the one that we see in the new ones doesn't. But yeah, I guess it is supposed to set that up for you. Do you feel like it was necessary when they released it? I know Trevorrow really stands behind this completed extended version.
I don't maybe feel like that beginning portion was necessary. I do feel like the smaller, and some of the scenes that they cut were like 30 seconds. They really weren't that long, but there's even like an extended moment between Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler at the very beginning, which just kind of like makes their love more alive. I don't know, makes you realize more that they still have those feelings for each other that we obviously see play out. But I've enjoyed it so far. We did finally get to see the scene that you saw in all the Geico commercials where the T-Rex is like busting through the drive-in. So that was awesome. I was like, oh, we finally see that. And then after that portion is when it cuts to where the movie would actually start.
So is that drive-in portion longer? Do you get to see them take down and capture the T-Rex? Because by the time the movie starts, he is or she is right back in the new Jurassic World.
I was up and getting ready to get Leo to school at that point. I don't feel like we saw them take her down, but they do mention elsewhere in the movie, and I think they did in their original cut as well, that it took like 2 weeks to hunt her down and capture her. So you do definitely see her like causing problems and fucking cars up and stuff.
That's what she felt like she needed to not go out into the wilderness and live her life naturally. She's like, fuck this. I'm going to fuck things up.
She was trying. She ran through there because they were trying to tranquilize her. But then, of course, I know you're going to see it. I'm going to talk about this anyway because it's just so silly. They're like, hold it steady so we can trank her. And they shoot the tranquilizer dart and it goes through a car with people in it.
Oh, my God.
I was like, oh, man, you idiots.
They're dead. That amount of trank in a person that's meant for a dino, forget about it.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm sure Leo won't object to seeing it again.
No.
He recognizes the logos because he's like, this is the one I needed, the gold one. Because each Jurassic World, they changed the logos, colors or whatever. And he knew that the gold one was Dominion.
Well, even getting in the car today to go to school, he's like, when we get home, I want to watch more Dominion. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's another name for Jurassic World. I was like, oh, okay.
Last week, we covered that Joker Folie A Deux officially got a release date from Warner Brothers Discovery. And there's this controversy going around still over Joker 2 being a quote-unquote musical. Well, now we finally gotten some clarity from Variety as the report revealed that the Joker Folie A Deux portion that will have music is, quote, a complicated musical sequence, end quote, which will raise the budget to around $150 million. And according to the report, while it will have musical sequences, it won't be a traditional musical. Instead, it'll be more in the nature of A Star Is Born, which I did not see. Did you see that movie?
I watched a portion of it because it was streaming on some service that we had, and I had like a free afternoon. I'm like, oh, everybody says this is great. Let me try it. And I think I literally maybe got 20 or 30 minutes in, and I was like, this movie I'm not the audience because it just did not capture my attention. There wasn't anything that I enjoyed about it. I'm going to like make people angry. I didn't think the acting was that great. So that's where I stood on that movie. I stopped it because, why continue to contribute the time that I don't have a lot of anyway.
So while you were watching it though, was it, when they talk about the musical sequences, was it common enough to where you could consider this a musical film? Was it like a Disney animated movie where every now and again there'd be a song?
No, what I remember happening was, of course, Lady Gaga in it is like an aspiring musician, singer, whatever. So you had those sequences where she was singing and you saw her in a club. So I could see maybe that's what Harley's role is, but then also why are we doing that with the same actress? I don't know. I'm not writing the movie. We'll see. But it was very infrequently and fed into the story.
How do you feel about this sequel having musical components to it, and then Lady Gaga apparently playing Harley Quinn. That hasn't been 100% confirmed, but it's fucking Harley Quinn.
You know, when the first one came out, you and I were very much on the stance of, we'll see what happens. And it turned out to be amazing because there was so much criticism for it. So
old man Joker is what they kept saying.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it made $1 billion. So I'm still going to stick to that. I don't know that I entirely see the vision. There we go. That's a great way to put it. I don't see the vision for these things happening, but I don't know what iteration of Harley they're creating. It could be one that I've never seen before, and hopefully one that I enjoy.
The good news is they brought back Todd Phillips as the director. They got Joaquin Phoenix back. Obviously, it's got a huge budget compared to the first one. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery, at least the new regime, believes in it and sees it. And Zaslav or whomever was in charge of that decision went, the first one made $1 billion fucking dollars that we gave half the fucking profit over to a Chinese company. And because they didn't believe in it, that's bullshit. No, here, what budget do you need? And it won an Oscar.
Right.
Absolute embarrassment to Hamada and Toby Emmerich. Speaking of embarrassment, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson revealed via Twitter that he fought for Black Adam and Shazam to headline their own solo movies instead of going head-to-head in that first script of Shazam, which I actually do believe him on this one.
We do have a quote here from Johnson that says, quote, "Original script had both Black Adam and Shazam establishing their origin stories in one film. I fought hard for both characters to have their own standalone films for the fans to enjoy and protect Black Adam's ruthless and extremely violent tone as we build out the DCEU." End quote.
So I do think he has the ego to say, I'm not going to be the villain to Shazam 1. I want my own movie. And if you want me in your movie, you're going to give me my own film. And after the fact, he'll say, this is for the fans. This is for the character. It's like, what, all 10 fans of Black Adam? Like, how many hardcore Black Adam fans are there? So that doesn't track to me. I think it's an ego move of wanting to be a bigger part of the film than anything.
Or a bigger paycheck.
Bigger paycheck as well. And he's been cast as this for 15 years now. So they placated him. They wanted him to do his own thing. They had to change the script if they weren't going to have Black Adam in it and then write another script just for him. But the other part that I don't believe is him saying that Black Adam has an extremely violent tone and he's ruthless. If you've seen that trailer, you see that it's another Hamada-verse MCU type of movie where it's full of bits of comedy and it's not violent. It's not anywhere near what... It doesn't even look as violent as something like Man of Steel, which has destruction between Kryptonians and everything. This doesn't look anything like that. So to me, I don't know what kind of ruthless violence he's talking about. Maybe compared to his other roles. Fast and Furious, he destroys a couple cars here and there. And if he does a little bit more than that, then I guess it's violent considering the other stuff he's done. But I just don't believe him on that second part.
He's probably also trying to hype people up and be like, oh, it's so dark and edgy. And compared to other MCU movies, absolutely, it might be. But I definitely don't think it's going to live up to the hype of what we wanted initially, and certainly not what he's saying.
We did get some expected layoffs at HBO Max as due to corporate restructuring, 14% of staff were let go last week. According to the memo from Chief Creative Officer Casey Bloys, the streamer will begin to focus its Max Originals content on, quote, IP series such as Peacemaker, Dune, The Penguin, and Green Lantern, end quote. So all of a sudden, they were saying that these projects may be in jeopardy last week. Now they're confirming that they're not canceling The Penguin or the Green Lantern series or Peacemaker Season 2.
14% feels like a lot, though. Are you in, like, do you think these are people who needed to go?
It ended up being 70 employees.
Wow.
In the company. And it's something that I expected because next summer, they're going to have HBO Max and Discovery Plus be one streaming service, and they can't keep all the employees. And with the cuts that Zaslav has been doing to save on money and have higher quarterly earnings, they're producing less content, which means they don't need as many people on that service. As you're getting ready in the next less than a year now to shut down this service, you've got to cut back on your people that you definitely don't need, that you know you're going to put in your Discovery people on. So to me, this makes sense. And in fact, it might be even a little too late for me. And for me, like maybe the pressure's on them. Like we need to really cut down. But Zaslav just took control about 100 days ago. So this all tracks for me. I think it's to be expected.
Is Zaslav your favorite person? You're like, only 100 days ago. How do you know?
Well, because Sil Abdul Link was doing the 100-day plan thing of Zaslav has this plan of 100 days and this is what's going to happen. And now he's a little bit over that.
Sure, that's the reason.
He'll definitely be my favorite person if he fucking restores it. Then I'll be happy. So right now, he's done good moves up to this point. It seems like a person that understands how to make money, and it should be easy. I don't know why the old regime kept making the worst decisions in the world, but Zaslav, compared to them, looks like even better a CEO, which is crazy.
So what I'm hearing is he's still courting you, but to lock it in, he's got to restore the Snyderverse.
There you go. There'll be some...
But what about this, Dan? But what about this? And you're like, not yet.
If he thinks he's seeing wrath from the 3 Batgirl fans that had their movie canceled, if he says there's no Snyderverse, there's going to be some massive boycotting for sure.
That man likes to make money. I don't foresee him doing that.
October, that's when we'll know.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, not everyone is happy with Zaslav's moves. An actor from the now canceled Batgirl movie who wishes to remain anonymous has referred to Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav as an, quote, imbecile, end quote, during a new interview.
An imbecile who's making so much money.
This was in an interview with IndieWire. The actor said, quote, I am very offended by what happened and feel terrible for the directors and Leslie Grace, who were all wonderful to work with, as well as all the technicians. It was an enormous, rewarding challenge to make this movie during COVID and during the cold weather in Glasgow. None of these things matter to an imbecile like Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav. His cowardice is breathtaking. I am glad I got to participate, and I wish the best for all those involved, except the suits at Warner Brothers. But they all get replaced sooner than later, end quote.
Well, you don't even get replaced. You just get canceled.
I love that this person calls David a coward, yet remains anonymous.
Right. They're hoping they get other work. That's what it is. They don't want to call him out and then not be able, call him out publicly with their name and then not be able to get other work down the line.
People are speculating that it's a smaller, minor side role, that this person may not be a famous person from the film. So all these people that are like, it might be J.K. Simmons, it might be Michael Keaton. It's like, those guys wouldn't give a shit. They would just say it. And they also seem like guys that are like, I don't care, I got fucking paid.
Right.
This seems like someone who's younger, who wanted to be on the big screen or on HBO Max, and now they can't be seen, so now their career is over. That's what that sounds like to me. And good riddance.
But also, what do they think was going to happen with it? Like, legitimately, were they going to go, oh, this person's mad. No, let's just undo everything I just did and put it back out there.
These kinds of quotes make me go, good. Fuck them. I'm now glad it got canceled.
I want them to come out with their name eventually, and we all go, who?
Yeah, it was me.
Who are you? Well, this was my first role. Okay.
So we haven't gotten your take since you were last on. How do you feel about all these different cancellations that are going on at Warner Brothers Discovery? Like the Batgirl film, the Doom Patrol, apparently, Titans, all these things that now may not come to fruition.
I know that we were not excited about Batgirl and the direction that it was taking, so I don't think I'm upset about that. I did enjoy Titans when we watched it, but we have kind of fallen off of it. So all these things that they're canceling aren't really anything that's held our attention. I guess that's saying enough to say, hey, you've probably lost a lot of people. I think in the effort of saving money and redirecting focus, that's probably the right calls. Again, we expected some of this when they took over, and it sounds, at least from your perspective, that you're very pleased, right? He's still courting you. I guess he's reading your diary and being like, oh, Danny doesn't like this. Whoop. Again, I hope that all these changes mean that we're moving in the direction we would like it to go, right? A better direction, and restoring the Snyderverse and continuing with that universe and the amazing things that they had set up there.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I have more hope than ever for these movies, and for Hamada leaving in October. One thing so that it's on the podcast, Bobby, Millennial Mike, and I made this little pact that Bobby put together of he really wants us to watch The Batman so that we can trash review it on the podcast. He's assuming that Millennial Mike and I won't like it as well. He didn't like it. And he said, if the Snyderverse gets restored, then we have to watch the Pattinson movie and review it on the podcast. And we both agreed to it because at that point we can guilt-free watch anything DC. And the Batman he was showing me clips from it on his phone, and I'm like, this looks fucking terrible. He showed me the ending where Catwoman and Batman are talking, and then he does a terrible Christian Bale impression and walks to his bike. He stands there for like 10 seconds, and I'm like, okay, cut the scene. And then they have him walk back to his motorcycle. He turns around again and looks at the camera and stands there again. And I'm like, cut the fucking scene. Who the fuck is editing this? And he kept showing me. I'm like, Bobby, why are you showing me more of this?
So you can just be angrier and angrier. That's what continued.
It looks pretty fucking terrible. And then he showed me the credit scene, not post credits, but the Riddler and Joker talking in Arkham. And it feels like a fanfic movie that you'd find on YouTube. Like the sound is all echoey and shit. Like they couldn't get decent sound on either actor or something. I don't know. It really does not look well produced. But
how many millions did they spend on it?
I don't remember. But if the Snyderverse gets restored, I'm apparently going to be watching this whole thing from beginning to end.
I can't wait.
But I won't be alone. Millennial Mike will be suffering with me.
I'll be laughing in the other room listening to you.
Although maybe he'll love it. I don't know. Maybe I'll love it. Who knows? Weirder things have happened.
Not that weird.
Top Gun Maverick's #1 in the world right now. So
yeah, I still feel like that's not as weird as you liking this movie.
True. Something that people are liking is The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. It reached the top of Netflix's top 10 during its opening week.
Wow. In its second week, however, it nearly doubled its output from the opening week.
Which is a lot for Netflix. Normally, things trickle down, but word of mouth is apparently catching on this one. I was telling Nick on Buds, Bros, and Superheroes that the graphic novel I wasn't crazy about, so I didn't watch the Netflix show. And I don't know, maybe I'll check it out one day. But from what I understand, fans of the book do like the show. But it sounds like the general audience is catching on to this one as well. It is a slower burn, and that's something that people are like, oh, well, this is a boring show. But it's also The Sandman. It's not a superhero movie. It's not going to have Martian Manhunter in there. It's not going to have John Constantine. I believe his descendant or something is in there, but he himself is not in there. It does have Lucifer, but not your Lucifer.
Not my Lucifer. I know. So. They keep showing like Lucifer, and I'm like, no.
Why don't they call the show The Sandman featuring Lucifer just to trick some people into watching it?
No.
I think it's a good idea. That's how you market it.
Tom Ellis is Lucifer or no one? And then what's his name is John Constantine or no one?
Matt Ryan?
Yes. Those are the only two I accept.
Do you have any interest in watching The Sandman?
I mean, I'll watch it with you. Or you can put it on while I fall asleep. I don't know. I'll check it out. But again, I recognize that those aren't the same characters, but they will always be the characters.
This will be a more comic accurate Lucifer.
No, okay. No, then never mind.
The most clicked on story every week seems to be that of Ezra Miller's. Some places are making up things about a cult in Iceland or Greenland somewhere out there and reprinting the old articles. Well, after many months of silence from Ezra Miller's team, Variety posted a statement from their team saying that the actor was having a, quote, crisis and is seeking treatment, end quote. Ezra says, quote, having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I am committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage in my life, end quote.
So what they said is, we're restoring the Snyderverse and you can't be in it if you're not better.
Well, what's suspected is that there were a couple of options from Zaslav of option A, have him go on an apology tour and salvage, okay, he's going to remain the Flash in these movies. We're going to release the Flash movie. He just has to go on an apology tour and stay on track until that movie releases and moving forward, hopefully. Option B was recasting him in the future and maybe, definitely not in the Flash film. That film is already done, but in the future, recasting the character. And then option C was completely canceling the Flash movie. So by him going on this apology with Variety, it's confirmed that Zaslav and the team at Warner Brothers Discovery want to keep him on and hope for the best when it comes to his personal life.
Is that something you're supportive of, or would you rather they recast him if the Snyderverse continues.
I would want Zach to do what he feels is best. You know,
Whatever you want, Zach. Whatever you want.
I liked Ezra as Barry Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene in which the Flash is going back in time and fixing and stopping Darkseid, undoing Steppenwolf's work, his win, just taking it away from him, is one of the best things that you've seen in a superhero movie. And it won the Oscar cheer moment. It won the Academy Award-winning Snyder Cut now.
Right.
So I would love for Ezra to get better, get some help, and return for future movies, Justice League 2 and 3, for the Flash film to, if they end up making some changes so that it does fit in the Snyderverse and it doesn't erase the Snyderverse, then great. Then I'd be there to support it. But otherwise, if more comes out of this, I think Warner Brothers Discovery now has the thing of, okay, we gave you a second shot, this, and you've squandered it, assuming that ever happens. And hopefully that doesn't. And I know some of these articles are blowing up what Ezra did and the behaviors, because that's what get clicks. And I understand that we don't know all the facts to all of these things. And some of the victims, supposed victims, have come out and said, no, that's not true. We don't really know the full details yet until there's actual possible court sightings and whatnot. But until then, just hoping Ezra gets the help they need and that we are able to fit them into future movies if that's what they want to do, if they're capable of that at that point in their life.
Well, we hope for the best. At this time, The Flash is currently set to be released on June 23rd, 2023.
Another member of the Justice League celebrated their 50th birthday last week, and for that, hashtag Make the Batfleck movie trended in celebration. Happy birthday to Batman himself, Ben Affleck.
Because he's listening.
50 years, married to J-Lo.
He's living his best life.
Coming back as Batman for the third time.
I know.
After people are like, he's done is playing as Batman, right? Yeah, that's why he keeps coming back to say goodbye for a third time to the role. Bullshit.
I'm happy for him. Him and J-Lo, like...
You've been following that.
I have, and it just makes me so happy to see them back in love. Second chance romance, that's what this is. Broke up for the wrong reasons, but now they're back together and stronger than ever.
Married and shit.
I know. He got her like a $10 million engagement ring. Good for them. I hope they just live the rest of their life. Like, I will legitimately be heartbroken if they break up again.
Me too. I'd love to see them on the red carpet premiere of Zack Snyder's Justice League 2.
Okay, I would love to just see two people live their best life, regardless of what they do with their careers.
And in celebration of the real Batman, we have some news on the little tiny Battinson, Batman Jr., the non-workout Batman.
It's not Bat fake?
What are they? Yeah, Batman Beyond is Bat fake. Okay. That's the thing. So we got to come up with something new for Baby Teeth Batman is what they've been calling him. Have you seen Robert Pattinson's teeth?
Yes, you've shown me before.
Little baby teeth Batman. He's got teeth like Leo.
Listen, Leo was hesitant for his baby teeth to fall out, so maybe Pattinson just made sure.
Fallen out. That's what we're saying. Yeah, they've never fallen out.
Baby teeth Batman.
So he's you know how some actors get teeth replacement? He should have done that a long time ago. I'm serious.
Well, it probably wasn't noticeable until half his face was hidden.
Oh, that might be true. That might be true.
People were distracted by the rest of his face. And
then in the Twilight movies, he had the vampire guards in there, so you couldn't see them.
So they look like normal teeth, yeah.
And then in the lighthouse, they were hidden by that giant beard that he grew.
Yes.
Now we're figuring it out. Why?
And Harry Potter, he probably just used magic to make them look normal.
So according to Variety, Pattinson writer-director Matt Reeves is on track for a sequel with Robert Pattinson, but the project remains in development and does not yet have a green light from CEO David Zaslav.
Although the Batman wasn't part of the Flashpoint timeline, it isn't in the DCEU either. Reeves demands his own pocket universe. According to Geeksocity, Zaslav isn't comfortable with that, and that the only reason Joker is happening is because the first one brought in over $1 billion.
So that was one thing that Emmerich very quickly, I think it might have even been like a week after the movie premiered, he said, we're going to do a Batman 2, and everyone was real happy about it, and this was before he was fired, so this is a part of him like, look what I'm doing things, we're making things happen, the movie made $800 million or whatever, so it's all good, don't fire me, don't replace me. And now with this one, Zaslav's like, whoa, hold on there. You can greenlight all the shit you want, but I make the final decision here.
But I'm in charge.
I'm the captain now. And he hasn't decided yet on whether or not he wants to greenlight the Battinson 2. He's all about IP protection. He's all about having a universe that fits in this 10-year plan, not having a multiverse of different characters, different stories all over the place. He wants to have a vision for these characters and for these stories so that he can then expand. He compared it to the MCU. The MCU doesn't have, here's Iron Man over here, the show, and here's the Iron Man movie that's not Robert Downey Jr. And Zaslav wants that. He doesn't want to have different Batman all over the place. So how do you feel about Zaslav not wanting these characters to have different versions of themselves on the big screen and him wanting one Batman? And supposedly we're hearing that he wants Ben Affleck to be that Batman.
Well, I'm in favor because he chose the right Batman. Yep. But also it makes sense. So obviously the Battinson movie didn't do that great, and not just by our standards, but I think you had even mentioned in the box office.
Right.
Didn't really do that great. So why are we continuing to invest money to try and recreate these characters when we could instead focus that money and make one really great universe, and then however many years from now, reboot that universe, right? Close that chapter and now start something new. But rather than spend so many resources to make 4 different versions of the same character, hoping that somebody will connect with one of them, just make one really good one.
So far, it seems like Discovery is not the type of company to, well, let's try this out and see how that does. Let's give this a
They don't want to
shot.
Discover different things.
No, they're like, this makes money, keep doing that.
Right.
Home renovation shows, more of those. Sure, make spin-offs. Those people keep watching them. All right, more.
They cost zero money to produce.
That's the thing. That's what he says. He's like, those cost nothing to produce, and people watch the shit out of them. And part of what's speculated as well with the conference calls from the earnings is it's more expensive to reboot a franchise or a character rather than, okay, bring back Ben. There's an established fan base there, and let's continue with that. It's risky. It's expensive. You cast a new actor. Maybe people don't like that actor, and then you have to do it all over again.
Now, let me ask you, talking about Pattinson, Robert Pattinson is very vocal about how much he hated Twilight, even though he was in it and it brought him to fame. Do you ever think he'll say those things about this movie? If it's as bad as you say it is.
I think he will eventually, because there were those rumors about how he refused to work out. Matt Reeves told him, like, hey, you got to get in shape. You got to get bigger. And he was like, nah. He didn't want to do it. And it's like, you're the fucking Batman. Right. They're paying you millions to do this. Go to the fucking gym. See your they get personal trainers that they have to go see. Go see that person. And so I think he will be saying something about that. He caught COVID a few times. They had to stop filming a few times. There's no way that was a pleasant experience.
Right. Well, I can't wait for him to start talking about that as negatively as he did Twilight.
Last couple of shows that are said to be on the chopping block, according to Variety, are Titans and Doom Patrol. And that's one that does not surprise me either. I think that those shows, anything that's on its 3rd or 4th season or whatever, is pretty much like, okay, no, we're not going to keep doing this.
Right.
Let's instead invest in what we're going to launch with in summer 2024, because I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to have shows that are brand new to launch when the streaming merges with Discovery Plus.
That makes sense. You know what shows they should do is more romance novels like Bridgerton. Then they'd get all the monies.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to what non-DC stuff David wants to do aside from HGTV and all of those. What kind of projects, hopefully high quality, that, like Macy was saying last week, HBO is known for, that they'll be putting forward for the audiences next year.
We'll see, but I'm hopeful. It sounds like everything we've been talking about today is just a step in the right direction, things that needed to happen on the way to wooing Daniel. It's the journey to wooing Daniel. That's what we'll call this whole saga. But I am at least hopeful for the future, and I think this merger has been a very good thing.
A lot of positivity on this week's news, and last week too. It's been good, and I think it's going to continue in this direction until October. Obviously, I'm a little apprehensive about the Penguin and Green Lantern still moving forward in their projects. I think they should have gotten canceled as well, but there's still time for minds to be changed and for some of these news stories to end up being fake. And we'll clear all of that up as we continue right here on the podcast in the weeks ahead. But let's head on over into the final portion of this week's show. It's the Broket Block, what PALPAKELLI and I have been doing since you last heard us. So PALPAKELLI, the more personal side of the show, what's been happening with you since you were last on?
So many things. So first, from a work perspective, I opened my very first brand new store, and it was exhausting. I don't ever need to go through that again. But for any of those of you who have opened a store before or opened any kind of business, you know that it can definitely be challenging in the first few days, and it was. But about a week in, we really settled out and things got into a great place. So I am happy to have actual days off again and have time back with my family. And there's still long days, but that's because I want to be there and I love it. So that's been the work side of things. On the home front, still reading a lot of books. What else is new? I think I'm up to like 80 since January. So, we're fine. Leo went back to school, so having that free time, at least even with just you and I, of getting like 2 hours together a week.
It's the reason we're able to record today.
It is the reason we're able to record today. But that's been really great, and he, of course, is loving it. He was complaining one of his teachers didn't teach him anything. She just lets him play all day. And it was like, do you think maybe she's teaching you how to play? And he's like, oh, she's teaching me how to play. And I'm like, why are you upset that you just get to play all day? Like, that sounds fantastic. So he's really loving it and thriving. And life is just really good.
You were talking about the extra time. I have yet to get to enjoy that yet because you were talking about the extra time. I've yet to take advantage of that in personal time, at least, because it's only been a couple of days since he's gone back to school, and that I haven't started earlier in the day. So what I ended up doing is 2 days of yard work, and then today it's recording the podcast. So I think by next week I will have caught up, but I still have to fix the weed eater and use it on the front and the backyard, trim the bushes in the backyard. So I think that's going to take up at least 1 or 2 more days of quote unquote free time for me. And then I'll get to, maybe I'll watch a show. Maybe I'll play some more Red Dead Redemption.
But see, you and I are also very different, where you see that free time and you say, what do I need to do?
Right.
I see that free time and I say, great, let me lay next to this pile of laundry and read a book. So I just prioritize my own mental health and sitting there and relaxing a little bit, because I know as soon as Leo gets home, it's nonstop.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And I like seeing him during his lunch period. And I think that's very fortunate as well. But tomorrow I will have time after the gym to knock that stuff out. So like I said, maybe by next week, maybe I'll be chilling a little bit.
Chilling. Love to see it.
But speaking of Leo, did you want to make the other little announcement?
Sure. So this has been a very long journey for Daniel and I, but we will be welcoming a new little one into our family sometime early next year. So I'm pregnant, for anyone who was having trouble deciphering that.
Another little clone for me.
It will look exactly like you. I think your sister was asking, like, do you think it'll have lighter skin?
Well, based on how my siblings went, it will have lighter skin.
I think it's still going to be another clone.
My dad's convinced it's going to be a girl this time. My mom is convinced it's going to be another little boy because of her family's track record, I think she was saying. But my dad's is they were girls first and then boys that were born. So it could be either way.
I mean, it is going to be either way.
You feel like it's going to be?
I feel like it's going to be a boy. I don't know. I just always imagine myself as just like a boy mom. And I just feel like it's a boy. Like you just
feel it in your heart.
You just get those feelings. And listen, you would have to talk to another mom, okay? And so we'll see. I don't want to be like too certain, because then it would end up being a girl. But I very much believe that it's a boy. But like Leo, I felt he was a boy like 2 days after I found out I was pregnant.
Oh, yeah? What's the feeling of a boy rather than a girl?
I don't, do you want me to explain it? It's super weird.
Okay, well, if there's physical details, maybe not. But
No. It's not like, it's just like when I think about it being a girl, it feels wrong. You know, like when you just get that feeling of wrongness. And when I think about it being a boy, it feels right.
You just know.
I just know.
You just know.
Yes, Snape, I do. Thank you.
Well, it is very exciting. It is very exciting. Leo is going to be a great big brother. we get another shot at raising a little baby. Most likely the last one, because I'm heading to the snip shortly after it's born.
I told you they're going to catch that baby and I'm going to send you right down the hall.
Yeah, that's when they cut my balls off or whatever they do.
Don't cut your balls off. That's not how that happens.
I hope it's as simple as my uncle apparently went to get his balls cut or whatever.
Just call it a vasectomy.
During his lunch break, and then he went back to work.
There you go. Done.
Your dad, on the other side, took off a few days, right?
He got his done on like a Friday, and then he had through the weekend, and he went back on Monday or something like that.
Gotcha. So another one that could go either way.
Oh, boy. It'll go whichever way you want it to go.
I'm hoping the technology now is so advanced since both of them got it done where they could almost, they can just like almost X-ray laser, like, pew, all right, done. You can go mow the lawn if you want.
I don't think it's quite that way. but why don't we focus on the positive here of another little one?
We have some names picked out, but until we know what it ends up being, that's when we'll decide on the names. We're stuck on the boys' names are the hardest. And that's the one that we're going to have to really decide if you end up being right and it is a boy. But if it's a girl, we got it done already. Sophia.
Right.
We both agreed on that name.
Right.
And we like it.
See, I have so many book names that I could just name boy book names. And you shoot them all down.
I don't like them. Not a fan. A fellow co-host on the show, if you haven't seen on Discord, Bobby is at Pokemon Worlds right now in London. So he had I think it was like a 5-hour flight, and then there was a layover, I think is what they're called, at Germany for an hour.
Cool.
And then another hour-and-a-half flight to get to London. And over there, so it's at 4 a.m. is when the tournament starts on Thursday, I believe.
It's
Our time. So to them, it's in the morning.
Okay.
So I was talking to a coworker, the competitors that are from the U.S. have that disadvantage of they're going to have to either be really tired and hopped up on caffeine or very quickly get adjusted to the time so that they're able to properly play under those time zones. And that's something that if the players are smart, they will have gotten there a few days early, gotten adjusted to the time, and then hopefully by Thursday or Friday have been ready to play. And I know Bobby does not sleep very often, so at 6 a.m., I'm getting up to go to the gym. He's already in the convention taking pictures of the different Pokemon stuff, and he's sharing it on our Discord. The Sonichu patch, he took pictures of that next to the London thing. So Chris Chan apparently got let off on insanity or whatever.
Oh,
so
boy.
now Sonichu's not a bad thing. This is good.
All right.
Bobby can get that signed. So very exciting. If you want to see some Pokemon Worlds photos, please join our Discord. You can see them on there.
What an amazing experience, though. Have fun, Bobby. That sounds great.
That is a massive honor for him, to be able to go to Worlds and judge the event. So if you are watching Pokemon Worlds or streaming it, more than likely you'll see Bobby right there judging the biggest Pokemon TCG matches of the year.
So cool.
But that about does it, Brocat Core. I know there wasn't a massive amount of news this week, and the podcast is as long as it needs to be. I won't pad it out longer than needed. So huge thanks again for joining us this week and for making us a 2022 Games and Hobbies Podcast Awards nominated show. So a huge congratulations to you as well, PALPAKELLI, on September 29th for International Podcast Day. That's when they're going to be making the announcement on the winners for the show. And just a reminder that Bobby's email to vote in the final slate, because they picked 500 voters, his email got put into his spam folder. So if you voted for our show, please check your spam folder to see if you got picked as one of the final voting slate people. And then you can vote for us under Games and Hobbies. That's where you'll find us. So thank you again for voting in and for joining us on this 522nd episode of the show. As a reminder, our 10-year anniversary for the podcast is in the middle of September. I want to say September 12th or the 17th. I believe it is the 17th, so that's when we're going to debut the new logo, the 10th anniversary logo, and celebrate 10 years of the show. That isn't possible without PALPAKELLI or the rest of the Brocat Core members. So, PALPAKELLI, thank you so much for being on this week, and please let them know where they can find you.
Yes, I am on Twitter at PALPAKELLI. Kelly is spelled with an I, but I very rarely check Twitter, so you can certainly search for me, follow me. Sounds like a great time.
For a link on everywhere you can find us, head on over to thereasonsimmbroke.com. If you click on merch on that very same website, you can find t-shirts, mugs, masks, posters, notebooks, all kinds of stuff at thereasonsimmbroke.com. Click on merch, and that's also where we debuted the new U.S. flag design. That's where we're going to have the 10th anniversary logo displayed, and every bit of that helps out the podcast, so thank you so much for representing the Brokehead Core. I have been Daniel, joined by the almighty
Emperor PALPAKELLI
and Brokehead Core. All will be well. So I will be watching the Dragon Ball Super Heroes movie coming out at the time we're recording this weekend. Does not feature a lot of Vegeta, though.
Why?
Is this news to you?
Oh, yes.
Okay, this is a Gohan Piccolo movie.
No.
I'm glad I caught this reaction on the podcast. Because I was going to say, how excited are you for this movie, fully knowing that Vegeta's barely in it?
I'm not excited at all. This movie can be scrubbed from my memory. It doesn't
Goku's
even
barely
exist.
in it, too.
Well, I don't care. He doesn't
That's
have to
good,
be in
right?
anything. It
That's
should
what I'm
just be
saying.
all Vegeta all the time. It should just be Dragon Ball Vegeta. That's all we need to call it.
Apparently, I think it was Akira Toriyama. He said that they haven't done a story focusing on those two characters, father and son, Gohan and Piccolo, since I think the Cell Saga or something he was saying. So he wanted to bring those characters back to the forefront. And I think initially it was meant to be a series of episodes or something, and then it kind of evolved into this movie. But that's something that people need to set their expectations for. They're not going to be seeing a lot of, at least my favorite character, Vegeta, or yours, or Trunks, or any of those characters are not going to be in here. But Gohan and Piccolo are pretty popular, so I don't think it was a huge risk to have them be the headliners.
I think that there is enough of a fan base around those two and that father-son relationship that they're going to go and see it, especially if there's a line in there like, you were like the father I never had. Whoa! Like, I don't know. Then I would approve then. But, I mean, Vegeta's the only reason I watch Dragon Ball, so super bummed. Not that I was going to go see the movie anyway, but...
You sounded a little excited when I first told you.
Yeah, until I found out there's no Vegeta. Now I do not care. Who cares?